Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another edition of an Evolved Review. My name is James Caleb Kitchens. I am your host as always, and I am joined right here by none other than the proprietor of the SWN, the Stovall Wrestling Network, Caleb Stovall. How's it going, man?
What's going on, man? How you been?
By the time this airs, it will have it'll be after Christmas, so the kind of holiday season will be over. This is going to come out between Christmas and New Year's. Um, and yeah, man, it's just been good. I've been very excited to be back for season 2. We had all kind of announcements and stuff come up to where we did all these like special editions, and then you and I have also been killing it with the main content. We did our top 5 non-WWE pay-per-views.
Yes.
And then yeah, man, it's 2020 is starting to look up right here, right there at the very end.
Yeah, it has. It's been a wild and crazy year, but I guess like I said, out of the good things that could have come from this year, this show, came about. This has been a fun experience and everything like that. Even when we have had to review the dark sides of the ring that made you want to rethink life.
What's interesting about that is we started off doing Dark Side of the Ring almost exclusively, and I think we got the most new viewers from doing Dark Side of the Ring. I think it's interesting. I thought we would bring in a lot of people. Dave Foster and I did the Final Fantasy VII review, and then last 2 weeks ago when this airs, I had Joe Brown on, and we did all of the Marvel and Star Wars announcements from Disney, and that episode's gotten some traction, man. But nothing hits like Dark Side of the Ring, and it's our bread and butter. And I think a lot of people really they just like to hear us talk about it.
Yeah.
That being said, the first episode we do in 2021 is going to be.
I just thought of this too as you said it. I was like, oh god, that means the first episode.
We are gonna kick off 2021 with Owen Hart. The episode that we avoid, like every single episode that we have done since the last Dark Side of the Ring that we did, which I think was probably Herb Abrams maybe, or Road Warriors. I'd have to go look.
I believe it was the Herb Abrams. If it was the last time we did it with
Platinum, yeah, maybe so. Yeah, man, it's been a long time, and ever since then, we have been scrounging up literally any excuse to not do this episode. So, 2021, we are going to kick the year off. We are going to brave it. We're going to watch it again. We're going to analyze it. We're going to get through it, and we're going to stop fucking talking about it.
Yeah. At least we do it one time, and we can can it after that. But
and then we'll have some breathing room. Then we can. We can like rest and get over it before before season 3 starts.
Well, and again, like I said, now I'm more prepared for it. It's like a lot of different things have happened and stuff like that. Actually, in my life, and a lot of good things are going on right now. So I can watch this now and just look at it as like a documentary type of thing. But it's like at first, it was because it was literally the day that I watched that episode. I believe we recorded that day, and it was the Von Erichs. And that one was the one that just like traumatized me. Like it went Von Erichs and then Owen Hart. And it was like, oh God, this is just too much. Like I need to just,
it's maximum trauma. Like that Von Erichs episode is just all it's pure depression on film. For those of you who are watching on video, my cats have decided they are going to zoom all over the living room while I record this.
Kitty.
Yeah. For those of you who are listening anywhere your podcasts are served, where we're now available in audio form, you won't know what I'm talking about. So.
But yeah, no, dude, I'm excited to cover the Owen Hart because there is a lot to talk about it and everything like that, and I know a lot of people want us to do that. But then afterwards, you know, we've got so much planned and stuff like that, and it's cool just to watch wrestling and you know talk about it from fans' point of view. You know,
Speaking of that, so this episode, actually, so if you've been keeping up with season 2, I believe it was in the premiere. We were talking about this, and you asked me if I liked NXT's Halloween Havoc because I have a lot of good memories from Halloween Havoc as a WCW fan growing up, and I said I haven't seen it, and you just couldn't believe it, and I said, you know what, all right, fine, I deserve it. We'll review it. So we said we're gonna put it on the slate, and I didn't watch it till last night, and I wanted it to be fresh, and yeah, so that's our topic for today. We're reviewing NXT's Halloween Havoc. It's a little bit late. Before we get into it, I I wanted to talk about something that I completely missed, and I don't know how I missed this at all. But the Ridge Holland injury that Pat McAfee references during this show, I was like, he talks about him, and I had two things popped in my mind. Number one, who in the fuck is Ridge Holland? And then number two, I went, what do you mean he broke his leg into like a million pieces? So I looked it up. Holy shit, man! Have you seen the footage on this
Ridge Holland from
from NXT?
no, I have not
Okay,
seen that.
okay. Well, when we get done with this episode, so anybody that goes and watches this, I definitely am not trying to make light of the guy's injury. It's 2.5 months later. He's gonna be okay. But this is probably the most horrific wrestling injury I have seen since probably the Sid Vicious off the top rope attempt at the big boot.
Are you talking about the? Oh, are you talking about the guy that broke both his legs?
No. This was on NXT. Like,
Oh,
like Antron Brewer was right there. I talked to him about it today. So Pat McAfee we'll get around to it, but Pat McAfee cuts a promo during Halloween Havoc, and he talks
yeah.
about Ridge Holland being injured, and I was like, I don't know who that is, and then I looked it up on the Twitter, and it was awful. It was horrific. Uh,
Did it happen live on NXT?
yeah, man.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, it was bad. Like it was just
So the leg went the opposite direction of which God intended it to go.
yeah. So what happened is
It's what you're telling me.
yeah. So it was Oni Lorcan, right? So the guy was having a tag or a match with Danny Burch, who we have seen in person a couple times.
Yeah.
Very talented guy. And so he gets like I guess so he beats Danny Burch, or the match is over, and he keeps laying it into him, and then Oni Lorcan comes out and saves him. And so he does the thing where he knocks him out of the ring, and then he goes and does a plancha basically over the top. And uh, uh when Ridge Holland catches him, he catches him properly, but his legs are like planted, and his left leg just gives, and it is fucking disgusting. The I've got the I looked up the
Oh, dude,
actual
I want
the
to see.
I looked up the medical diagnosis, and let's see, here it is.
I've seen that injury happen way too much this year in football, like especially football. Like I have just seen too many legs go, or too many legs, knees, whatever.
This is the
Yeah,
worst one I've ever seen. It was the guy that jumps off the turnbuckle, where that video that went viral where he dislocated both his knees.
yeah.
This was way worse than that.
Oh God.
He dislocated his ankle and fractured it.
Oh God. Oh,
Dislocated his knee, tore his meniscus, and tore his patella tendon. So basically, everything from thigh to ankle shredded. Uh,
They
if
immediately rushed him into surgery though when he's fine, right?
yeah, he's fine. They popped his knee back in at ringside. Mm. Yeah, rough, very rough. So
Did
yeah,
Brewer
if
do that?
what's that?
Brewer didn't have to do that.
He may have because
He did
he's
that for
licensed.
COVID.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly what I was thinking of when I read that. They didn't show it on the camera, but I said he popped David Coleman's shoulder back in at Flatline, and that's immediately what I thought of, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Ooh." And I talked to him about it earlier, but I didn't ask him if he had to pop his knee back in. I was just like, "Yeah, that was the stuff of nightmares, man." Yeah, I mean, it was so horrible. I can't imagine being right. I mean, because he was literally, I mean, right next to him. You
Yeah.
know, oof. But yeah, if you're watching or listening to this and you go look this up, please, like, if it is not for the faint of heart, like it is bad. The man lets out a scream that will haunt your freaking nightmares.
Well,
Uh,
I'll take your word for
it's
it.
rough. I'm still gonna link it to you later because I know you won't be able to not click on it. Um,
Damn it.
anyway, let's get into the show, man.
I'm
So,
gonna avoid it like I've been avoiding this Owen Hart episode then.
right, we'll have to do a review on it in 2022.
Oh fuck no.
I have to talk about it for an hour. Um, man, so this I had no expectations going into this, right? We've talked about on here. I hate, and I mean I hate COVID era wrestling because I hate crowdless wrestling.
Yeah.
Um, but this was a really cool mix of the live audience, and it was not a paid show. These were all like trainees and staff and stuff like that. But they gave them instructions like, "Hey, you guys, just be super into the show." And I was my mind, I went, "Okay, cool." And so it felt like I was watching a show that people were super into. And I loved that. And then they had the kind of like mini Thunderdome or whatever. I thought it was a good combo of those two things. And I could ignore the Thunderdome because when I try to watch the Thunderdome, uh, on like SmackDown or something, there's
Yeah.
just way too much going on.
Yeah, it's like one big seizure lights.
Yeah.
It's just like like someone who is epileptic cannot watch the main roster shows.
Yeah. I loved the format of this though. Shotzi, like, just did an amazing job. And like,
Didn't I tell you she stole the show?
you did, and I love that they brought back like the gargoyle and the pumpkin for the entrance. They did a good job making this a throwback to WCW Halloween Havoc. It's very nice for me to just be able to be super excited about something on this show because that's normally what you do, and I am normally the one who shits on everything. I love this. I love this event. It felt like I was watching a fucking wrestling pay-per-view. Like
Yeah.
the commentators were not trying to sell me fucking Mountain Dew. Like there was like minimal shenanigans. I didn't love everything, but we'll get to you probably know exactly what I didn't like. We'll get into it, but I mean, it was like the set was cool. It felt like a fucking wrestling pay-per-view. It was a cool set. People had special like neat entrances. Nothing took too long. There wasn't like 45 minutes of like people not selling super kicks. It lacked all of the shit that I hate about 2020 wrestling and half of the shit that I have to watch to review it on this show. Um, so yeah, I get to not feel like Jim Cornette today for once.
Well, like I said, man, I know a good see. It doesn't matter what company it is. If it's a good show, I can recognize what a good show is. And I just when I watched this, and I actually watched this, around Halloween, when it came out. I didn't watch it live, but I watched it later on, And I just remember watching it thinking, man, this is just, these are those types of Halloween specials where it's like, I wish you would do more of this, but I wish you would do it on the main roster. Like, this is when it's okay to present what is basically a pay-per-view, except on a Wednesday night.
Not only is this not main roster, it's not even NXT main roster for the most part.
Well, I mean, not really, because I mean, in a lot of ways it is, because that's who is on in the main event on NXT
Well,
right
yeah,
now.
but Finn Balor wasn't cleared, so that's
Oh yeah, that's right.
the champion wasn't cleared, and he wasn't there. We have Ciampa just cutting a promo,
Yeah,
and then Undisputed Era for the most part is not there.
yeah, it's just Kyle O'Reilly.
Yeah, so I mean the biggest stars are really not here for the most part. Um,
Why that was?
I don't know, but it didn't matter to me because
It didn't.
the people that were on the show, I mean, it made them really step it up, and we'll get into it. So, from the opening here, they let you know that they went all out for this show. No pun
Yeah.
intended. Um, it was the opposite of 2020's All Out. But what did you think about this intro with Damian Priest getting played out? You know, first, well, Shotzi with the wheel and the uh, fucking grinder or whatever the hell it was, and then going right into Damian Priest's entrance with the live guitarist. I'm not sure what band they may have been from, but it was cool.
I usually know the answers to those questions. This one I do not. I do not know who that guitarist was.
Even when I tried to look it up, they just said he was played to the ring by a live guitarist, and I was like, they're not anybody special then.
Yeah, yeah, it wasn't someone from like Code Orange or anything like that they've been using, which I love when they use Code Orange in your house. But yeah, first of all, the intro with Shotzi, like I said again, she stole the show right off the bat. Like, you could just tell that, like, this was made for her, kind of thing. She played her role great, and we'll get into that as we go along. But I loved the entrance. I didn't think it was too long.
Right.
That was my thing. It's like, normally if that had been the main roster, that'd have been like 30-minute intro.
Yeah. And, well, the ramp isn't long enough. Thank God.
Yeah,
If this was like WrestleMania, the ramp would be like 70 fucking miles.
yeah,
And the band would have to like add a verse to the song to have enough song for the person to walk down through there.
yeah,
This was great. It was brief. It was not long enough for you to get tired of it, but it
yeah,
was to the point that you knew that something special was put into this entrance.
yeah,
This is my first real experience with Damian Priest, um, because I have not watched NXT in a long time.
yeah,
The last time I watched NXT, Johnny Gargano was a face. Um, it's been a minute,
yeah. Yeah,
and I
you
was very
still
fucking
watch
impressed.
it on time.
Yeah, yeah, I was very impressed with Priest.
Yes, dude. I was impressed with him when he was Punishment Martinez in Ring of Honor. Well, that was just his indie name, but yeah, I like him. He's gonna be, like, to me, he just says star. I'm like, look, he's a big guy. He can go in the ring, and he's just got that badass look.
Yeah. And then I'm a huge fan of Gargano. Um, and then this was going to be a Devil's Playground match, and I thought it was interesting to see how he would play into that because we all know that he can open up a takeover. Uh, that takeover that him and Andrade opened, that was
Yeah.
one of the best NXT matches in history.
I would have to say too that he is involved. Gargano is, with what I feel though has been one of the best NXT. No, I'm sorry, the best NXT show ever made, which was NXT New Orleans,
Yeah,
when it was him and Tommaso Ciampa in the unsanctioned fight.
yeah.
And
Where Champa comes out with no music.
yes, but that whole card, like that night, I was just like, this is better than WrestleMania.
Yeah,
Like,
it was the best of like NXT basically.
yeah,
And that whole yeah, you're right, man. That entire card, top to bottom. I mean, this was when NXT was destroying the main roster on a regular basis. And not to say they don't still do it. Shit. This right here, this event that we're talking about right now is the best thing I've seen from a WWE production all year.
oh no, I agree completely. I thought it was better than WrestleMania. I mean, WrestleMania was what it was, and I understand, the kind of positions that they were in and everything like that. But I mean, the same could be said here, and they still managed to put on like a great show. Like I just thought this was great overall. What did you think of the spin the wheel, make the deal?
I thought it was a cool addition. Yeah.
Um, I mean, I loved it in WCW. Which I mean, I don't know if I loved it in WCW, but it was cool just to kind of see it brought back and kind of used like in the way that they kind of tried to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I love Damian Priest, and Gargano is amazing. I do find it interesting though that a lot of the times they say it's supposed to be the other way around. The smaller guy is supposed to be the face, and the bigger guy is supposed to be the heel and stuff like that. But I'm just like, Gargano has done such a good job of making himself such a chicken shit heel.
When you have like somebody who's that talented, they can get over anything.
Yeah.
And they did. I mean, Gargano is seasoned. He has had matches with people that I think are awful and made me love the match. Uh I mean like people that I've thought every match they've ever had was boring as hell. He's made it good. Uh
Yes.
so now like
I know who you're talking about.
yeah, I'm not going to name any names. Some of you know, but there's one person in particular that it, until they wrestled Johnny Gargano in front of me, I thought every match they ever had was boring. And now every match they've ever had is boring except for the one that they had with Johnny Gargano. So, yeah, I mean he's that fucking good. Uh, and yeah, I get to not feel like Cornette again because Cornette fucking hates Gargano. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, he hates him because he puts him in the category of people who no sell moves, or I guess do them too fast, or I guess wrestle like they're in a video game. Which I'm just like, okay, I don't I don't really get you sometimes, Cordy, but I know he definitely hated this matchup because I mean, look at all of the stuff that they did on the outside. They kind of turned it into like a horror type house and everything like that, like with the little skeleton popping out, Johnny Gargano super kicking the thing.
yeah, if I'm being honest, if I didn't like anything in this match, it was that. Some of the backstage stuff when they did go backstage looked kind of hokey. They didn't plan that out real well. Um, and yeah, when so the thing that bothers me about the skeleton thing popping out of the casket and him like being super shocked about it is like the way that they pulled it off. It's like he was scared of it at first, and then he was like, "Oh, it's a skeleton," and then he super kicks it. What would have been made it not silly to me is if the casket pops open and he doesn't take that moment, to be like, "Oh, it's a fake skeleton." If he had just like reacted and kicked it, that would have been way better to me. The way
Yeah.
it looked was silly, and it took me out of the match for just a minute. But it was such a good match. Other than this, I thought it recovered. I mean, it can't be. It wasn't perfect all the way through, but it didn't matter. It got across exactly what they needed to get across here, and the
Well,
finish was fucking great.
oh, with the ghost.
Well, not just that, but that he comes out with so the like screen mask dude or whatever comes out, yeah.
Yeah.
But then he hits him with the tombstone, and it was probably just some like particle board or whatever that they had rigged up. But what I loved is that when he picked it up, Johnny's actually selling it. He's holding the thing like it's actually heavy,
Yeah.
and people don't do that ever. And so he's got the thing and he's acting like it's actually heavy. So when he smacks him with it, you believe he goes flying off through the thing. And then that was just such a good effect too. It didn't scream, okay, here's some platform that we set up earlier for some guy to go through. Because WWE is pretty guilty of that these days.
Oh yeah.
Um, I loved it, man. I loved the finish, and I mean, of course he pinned him, like, you know. But yeah, I mean that was a good match, and I mean that match was 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like 20 minutes at all.
No, it didn't. It felt really good, but I like some of the stuff though that they did on the outside using the barricades and stuff like that as well. By the way, spoiler alert with that ghost, and anyone watching NXT knows who that is now, so I'm not really spoiling anything. So don't anyone get on to me. But that's Austin Theory.
Yeah,
And I love me some Austin Theory, especially being the fact of I literally trained with that guy at WWA 4.
if
Like,
if you haven't seen the Evolve WWE Network special where Theory defends against James Drake in the main event, fucking go watch it. You've missed out on a segment of your life that you need to fill in.
especially, us knowing JD Drake, like we do and everything like that. To have him in that main event and then Paul fucking Heyman, of all people,
I lost
come
my shit.
and introduce him. Like I just said, wow, that's amazing. I don't care who you are. That is incredible. And I bet you Jake was just like, oh my God, what? Like,
I'll tell you right now. Wrestling is about moments more than
yeah.
anything. More than a good match, or even more than a compelling story. Now, a good match or a compelling story might be how you get to that, but wrestling at the end of the day, the main thing it's about is creating those moments. Those and you can play them in your head right now. All those moments in wrestling that you will never ever forget,
Right.
just these that stand out to you.
Right.
Um, it's the biggest one probably ever of Hogan slamming Andre, and they showed in every damn video package for a million years. I remember that. I'll always remember, Shawn Michaels super kicking Ric Flair, in his retirement match. Although he had like 70 matches after that, but his WWE retirement match. Uh, and it just moments
Still an
like that.
incredible matchup, though.
Right. I mean, that was such a great match. Um, and like even on like the like indie level, I'll always remember, um, Shawn Legacy pinning Wade Adams for the Outbreak Championship at
Oh
Fire.
God, I remember the pop that got that night. That was incredible. We talk about moments. I'll always remember. All the times like watching WCW and Sting would drop down from the rafters. And
Yeah.
everything like that. Greatest feeling. Stone Cold Steve Austin moments. Like I could tell you about 50 of them. Austin
Right.
has his own moments booklet and everything like that. Yeah, and I agree, and this created a lot of moments as well.
Yeah. I mean, that moment when Paul Heyman walked out for that WWN special, not to go off on a tangent because we're reviewing Halloween Havoc, but that just, I'll never forget that. That was the moment.
Yeah,
And I think that this pay per view, to tie it all back in, has it has an element of that. Like and we're about to talk about it right now. Something that I'm not gonna forget. So next thing that happens, Pat McAfee comes out, and he's got the tag champs with him. Uh, so he's got Danny Burch and Oni Lorcan with him. Um, I like that. Is it Vic Joseph? Is that the guy on commentary? This is my first time seeing him, I think.
yes, it
So
is.
he was dressed as Waldo, which was
Yeah,
interesting. And then he had Wade Barrett there in the Bad News Barrett outfit, cosplaying as himself. Um, and his commentary is so great. NXT really lost out. I mean, not NXT, but NWA really lost out on this, but on having him there.
Well, here's my thing about that. I don't know if they had really kind of had a choice, because it's probably like they probably offered him a good deal, but WWE just made a better offer. They were just like, "Hey, we need you," and they just gave him a better offer. I mean, how can you really compete with WWE like that?
Right.
And NWA, I mean, they just launched that Shockwave show, and it's pretty good. I mean, if you might not like it because it really is crowdless wrestling, but I mean, that's just what we're in nowadays, and you kind of just have to do it.
Yeah. So that being said, Pat McAfee comes out, and
Yes.
Pat McAfee is off the chain, man.
Right, right. Dude, I agree with Jim Cornette on this one. He is quite literally him and MJF are the best two heels in the business right now. Pat McAfee, and he's even talked about this. He talked about this not on his podcast. It was another podcast, because actually it was a football podcast, and they were asking him about his the stuff that he's doing in NXT, and he's just like, I didn't want to be one of those celebrities that comes in and completely disrespects the business. I wanted to take this seriously, because these guys, what they do is so amazing and everything like that, and people just don't realize it at times. So dude, you can tell he is a fan of wrestling. Like, this guy just loves it, and he is a natural. I mean, he's one of those guys that back in the day, when you would just go out and find, like, he's like Goldberg, for example. Goldberg was never like a really wrestling fan and everything like that, but he just was a natural. He just had that natural timing. He had that natural charisma. Same thing with Pat McAfee, only Pat McAfee is a huge fan of wrestling. And he is just amazing. Like, what he has done so far, he's cut some of the best promos, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, this was an amazing heel promo. I really
Yeah.
loved it. I loved it from top to bottom. And I mean, he said he broke the PG barrier. You could tell that nobody wrote this fucking promo for
Yeah.
him.
Yes, I agree
That is the
completely.
thing that struck me about it, is I said, "No fucking TV writer sat in a back room watching Melrose Place or what the fuck ever reruns and, and wrote this shit out. This was a goddamn wrestling promo." Uh,
Yes.
and yeah, I mean, it was great. He talked about everything up and down. He came across as legitimate. He came across as cocky, but legitimately cocky. It was like, it wasn't the heel, who comes out there and talks all this shit and none of it's legit. As a matter of fact, he really didn't say anything that was untrue about himself. He came out, he's like, I got a podcast, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing all this shit. Everybody's talking about me, nobody's talking about you guys. And he's correct. He's absolutely correct. Um, Anyway, he's got the tag champs out there with him. He's talking about Undisputed Era. Finally, Kyle O'Reilly hits the ring. We get Pete Dunne coming back, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna set up a tag match here, whatever. But then, lo
Oh,
and behold, Pete Dunne. As soon as they got the chairs, I was like, nah. I was
yeah.
like, I know this trick. And Pete Dunne turns and he joins up with whatever this, they're gonna have to call this faction something. I don't know if they've named it since this pay-per-view. I don't know.
I can't remember. I know that they were setting up a War Games match, pretty much.
Right. So, yeah, y'all just have to deal with the fact that I'm literally, this is current NXT for me. I'm like 2 months in the future, or in the past rather. Um, so yeah, so here we are, and he comes out, cuts an amazing promo. They do this really cool turn. Um, there was also a backstage with Cameron Grimes. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't quite know what to think about Cameron Grimes. I haven't seen much of him.
He
Um,
was I believe his name was Trevor Lee. in Impact Wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm familiar with him, like, as a like, on the indies and stuff.
Right.
As a matter of fact, he worked Ken Lee uh, at least once, probably several times.
Okay, there you go.
He
Yeah.
did a couple of shows around here, but here's the thing, man, is on the indies, he did this like very like strong style, like almost like a caveman kind of gimmick, right? Like he wasn't, I mean, he was nowhere near as like vocal and like almost um like he was not as much of an outspoken kind of like character like Cameron Grimes is. So it was just weird for me to see him like that. And I didn't really know what to think of. I loved the thing where he talks about like the parking lot being the most dangerous place around. He's like, I've seen this shit. Um, you're not gonna tell me. But he does the promo in the back with Regal, and he's scared to go outside in the parking lot, and Regal's like, nah, go on out there. Um, so that being said, we're going next into the next match, which was, I guess, a cruiserweight non-title match, and that was Jake Atlas and Santos Escobar. What do you think about this match?
I thought it was pretty good.
For as short as it was, because it was short,
Yeah.
it's like not even 4 minutes. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Everything they hit was really smooth.
I thought so too. I don't know. They're telling a little bit of a story with it. I don't know exactly what's going on in it, but I did like it. I thought, hey, this is a good let me up match, but it wasn't boring and everything like that.
And Escobar had the Day of the Dead uh, face paint and the gear, which is a throwback to one of the matches on my top 5 matches of all
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
The infamous Halloween Havoc Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero match. So he has on gear that's reminiscent of Rey Mysterio's gear in that match as another Halloween Havoc throwback. And this match, in a lot of ways, felt a lot like the cruiserweights felt in WCW. And they are credited for bringing the cruiserweights to the U.S. What were you saying?
I was gonna say, I bet you Triple H did that for a reason.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I loved that. This match was really solid. I was thinking about when I was watching this, the difference between WCW cruiserweight wrestling and like a match like this today. There's so much more striking in wrestling today than
Yeah.
there was then. If you go and back and watch like Jericho Malenko or Eddie Benoit from 97, 98, whatever, there's so many holds and there's so few strikes, and that just occurred to me when I was watching this, because striking is so prevalent on the indies now and in wrestling in general, and I wonder if that's the UFC influence.
It is. It's basically because back then a lot of them would do the lucha style, but the lucha style was one way at the time.
Right.
It hadn't really been done here in America. Now you have like the American generation, like we'll just go ahead and say it, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, I guess Adam Page and stuff like that. Even people here in this show, Gargano, even Gargano has somewhat of a lucha style, but yeah, they mix like the striking and the lucha. A lot of them say it all the time. They're like, we like the high flying acrobatics, but we also love the wrestling. So we just take the two and we mix them together.
Yeah. It was just something I was thinking about during this match was that, it was just back then you didn't see near the amount of strikes. And there's a lot of that on the indies. And it's good to have the variance in a wrestling show. And I mean, a lot of people love that, reaction you can get off of a really solid strike if you get a good sound off of it.
Yeah,
Um, you
I
know, and that's
I
just
do
something that didn't happen then.
I do think it's overdone though. A
It
lot of
is.
the times, I think that a lot of people try to quote unquote slap their legs too much, and like You can even see like the red marks on their legs as the match goes on. Like it's like, dude, come on, kind of thing. And I think that's why like a lot of like old style or old school wrestlers, get pissed at it. Like they're just like, hey, you got to work some holes and stuff like that. You got to actually like sell these strikes, because I mean in UFC, even think about it, one punch and you could be knocked the fuck out, kind of
Right.
things. And I get that's what they're saying, but I thought this matchup though was pretty good for what it was. And then, like you said, the Cameron Grimes segment, which is leading up into the next segment, which how bad was it to see Mister Duke, as they're calling him now,
Okay.
Michael?
Okay. Before we talk about that, I want to
Yes,
say that the Ember and Dakota video package was
that's right.
solid, very solid. Another
Yes.
two talents that weren't on this show, big talents. But you were saying,
Well, you saw Michael Hayes pop out and take him to this haunted house.
okay, so I actually hated this.
Okay.
Um, I hated this because the sound mix was awful on it.
I will say that it was.
Because it was very clear that Bad Street wasn't coming out of the van. They laid it over it. And you couldn't really hear what the fuck they were talking about.
Yeah.
Um, you got it, but it's like, is a Michael P.S. Hayes, I mean, is that like a huge pop? I don't I don't know. I don't know that he is still big enough to garner a crazy reaction like that. It was a cool little, I guess whatever, throwback segment, whatnot. Um, I'll just go ahead and tell you the one match I don't like on this card is this fucking House of Terror match.
I knew you would hate that. I
It's
knew you
awful.
would hate that. And here's my question when it comes to cinematic matches. Okay. First of all, I hate it when we call them matches because they're not. They are literally a Hollywood movie scene shot with wrestling, which is okay in theory. But the problem that I always have with cinematic matches is why is it on every turn in the camera angles we have to hear music in the background?
Right.
Is that just to reaffirm that hey, this is a cinematic matchup? Like there has to literally be either creepy music, there has to be this build up music. I'm just like, no, there's only one promotion that has ever done cinematic stuff mixed with wrestling that actually worked, which was Lucha Underground.
I will disagree with that statement because there is a shining example. One example outside of that, and that is the Undertaker and AJ Styles.
Uh, okay,
But that's
I
the
get.
only that is the only time WWE ever should have done this, and I'm including the Firefly Fuckhouse or whatever match. Like, I, the only one that I have ever liked was Undertaker and AJ.
No. Well, I'll agree with that one because I mean, first of all, it's the Undertaker, and he is amazing, and I knew he would do great. And then AJ Styles, man, I mean, this is why I love that he doesn't bash his time in TNA because if he had never had that time in TNA, he'd have never been able to do something like this.
Right.
But and well, okay, that's one example, but I'm talking about from an overall standpoint where it actually worked every single week was Lucha Underground. Like if you've never seen Lucha Underground, folks, I implore you to go and look at that. But you have to look at that from a different perspective. And WWE, of course, when they do this kind of stuff, like immediately when I saw it, I was just like, oh God, is this what I think it is? And it was like, yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this one was, I think, particularly horrible, in my opinion. I mean,
Well,
out of all of them, I mean, this just wasn't like there's maybe 25 seconds where there's any contact between the two of them. The
Yeah.
whole rest of it is Cameron Grimes running around a freaking like haunted house, whatever the fuck. I mean, thankfully it wasn't that long, but it was way longer than I wanted it to be. It was bad. I get that they felt like they had to do something like this for this show, but it just wasn't good. I liked Loomis walking around like the horror villain. That was kind of cool as he's kind of, you know, playing that role, I guess, if I have
I,
to say something positive.
yeah, I've got to say though this about Dexter Loomis. All right, right off the bat, just the name. Like, I'm just going, WWE, how stupid do you think your audience is? Like at least in TNA, he went by some different name, but it was the same, type of gimmick as Dexter. Like he literally is just doing Dexter. This one, they didn't even try. They were just like, yep, this is Dexter.
Yeah,
Dexter Loomis. Like I just went, wow. Like no one's gonna figure that out. No one's gonna put those two together.
right. Yeah, it was rough. Um,
Ugh.
but on to greener pastures. I think we've said our piece about this. This next match. So I thought it was interesting that the semi-main and the main are both women's matches, and I
Yeah,
thought, okay, that's an interesting choice. Let's see if they can pull it off because those two matches have they would they're both singles matches, depending on what ends up happening, and they run the risk of these being very similar.
yeah,
So we have Raquel Gonzalez and Rhea Ripley. Let me just say that I was not prepared for how fucking over Rhea Ripley is.
yeah,
Jesus Christ.
yeah. Rhea Ripley is amazing.
This was the most physical women's match I think I've ever seen.
If you haven't seen it, you need to go and watch then Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte. I know you don't particularly like Charlotte a lot, but
Nah, I'm good. I'm good. I don't care how good it is. Like, so Charlotte has now taken on the Roman Reigns, uh the even the I'll catch hell for this now because people have put this dude on a fucking pedestal because just because he's been shit for so long. But John Cena is in that same category. Uh, Fuck you, internet wrestling community. I'm not hating on him because it's cool still. I'm hating on him because he bores the dog shit out of me. And he's vanilla as fuck. Anyway, Cena, Charlotte, Reigns, Kenny Omega, any of them come out on the screen, I'm instantly turned off. I don't care how good it is. It could be fucking Michaels Undertaker WrestleMania 25. I don't give a shit. They've just been ruined for me. And it's not even all their faults. It's Kenny's fault, but it's not the other one's faults necessarily. They're just making money, trying to make their way through the business. But yeah, I feel like anytime that somebody is shoved down my throat or just the fans in general's throats, and I feel like it's completely unearned, that puts me off to them forever. I mean, the stuff that Reigns has been doing now is actually really good, and I can watch it and acknowledge that. But never gonna like him. I'm never gonna be like, God, man, I can't wait to buy this Roman Reigns T-shirt. Like, it's just never gonna happen. So it's not that I can't acknowledge that they're doing something good. I certainly can. I just like you said that I mean Rhea Ripley here was amazing and she was super over and I liked her. But I can't get excited for her versus Charlotte because it's Charlotte.
I so disagree with you on Charlotte. I'm sorry.
A lot of people do, and you have every right. Out of the people I named, the most controversial one is probably her.
Yeah, I agree. Well, then Kenny Omega comes second because I disagree with you on him too. I'm not saying he's the best. I never say that, but I don't think he's that bad. Like I'm like, wow, that's just. But I mean, hey, to each
I'm
his.
not saying the man can't work. That's not what I'm just saying that I personally am not entertained. It's the same thing with with Charlotte, man. I catch more shit over that one than anything, but I really do believe, honestly, that if her last name was not Flair, none of us would know who she is.
I mean, there could be some truth to that, but I mean, I think that she has a lot of work now where it's like I can recognize her different from her father, kind of thing. I mean, we could say the same thing about Randy Orton, but I don't care what anyone says. I love Randy Orton.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Anyway, so this match was great. It was so physical. I loved that everything they did. I mean, this is the you look at the other matches on this card. This is the hardest hitting match on this card.
Yeah,
They did some insane shit. Um, the power bomb onto the railing. Well, I guess it's not railing; it's a cage.
yeah,
That was crazy. The clotheslines were hard. Um, what is it? There was a really nice cloverleaf during this match
yep,
that was cinched in. I mean, it was shades of like it was like the female version of like a Fit Finley and Benoit match back in the day.
yep,
Everything connected and everything was solid, and they looked like they were having a fight. It looked like they were having a contest with one another. I know this might be foreign to some of the AEW folks that may be watching this, but like they were having a contest, like someone was trying to win, right? Against
I
the other person.
I agree, but and first of all, before I go into it, I don't think that AEW like every match is that way. By the way,
I don't either. I was just cutting up.
yeah, but I agree. I felt like they were trying to win a fight, and that is my problem with some wrestling today, not just AEW, but even in WWE. But a lot of the main roster, I ask myself, why are they fighting? Like what is the motivation to fight? Like so. But this one, they looked like they were trying to have a fight, which is more than I could say for the part two that's coming up.
Yeah.
Because oh god, this next part I can't do it.
Really?
I hated this part. I hated it because all right, so it's the part two of the haunted house match, I guess is what it was
Well,
called. Which, by
well
the way, the
before we
leader.
go before we go, I do want to talk about this match some more.
Okay, okay,
My bad. I know I was gushing about it. We'll get there, folks. Um, I really liked the finish of this match as well. The
yeah,
Riptide is a cool ass finisher. I also want to point out the belly to belly spot from the top. Um, you don't see that anymore a lot. It was very popular when Kurt Angle was doing it. And then after Kurt kind of phased out, it was very popular on the indies for a short time. I actually used to do this. And then I don't see it that much in wrestling anymore, probably because it got so played out for a while.
yeah.
But so I popped for the spot. But yeah, great match, and this may be the best match on the card in my opinion.
I
Um,
I gotta agree, and I was gonna say it's because Rhea Ripley, is trained in that British style wrestling,
right,
which is very, mat based and striking.
right, and they did a good job.
Yeah.
We get the brief Cameron Grimes running back to the arena. I loved this. Not that. I loved the Drake Maverick Hollywood Hogan backstage bit.
That's because Drake Maverick, dude, is so good. Like he's so good with this character.
Yeah, and then they did the Giant and the Yeti. I gotta wonder if that was really the Yeti because he is actually still out and about. He was at that Hell or High Water show in Atlanta that where the Young Bucks actually signed um uh Jesus, why I can't think of their names right now. Penta and Phoenix.
Can I
Uh
get Junior and Ray Phoenix?
yeah. Thank you. Uh, I could not think of what's their tag team.
The Lucha Brothers.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, it's such a basic thing, but my brain just would not spit it out. I was like, he signed, those famous fucking Hispanic dudes. Uh, yeah, but anyway, the Yeti, the actual guy that played the Yeti was at that show. And did like a little run-in spot or whatever. So I don't know if that was actually him, but the
So
what's that?
so Reese
Yeah,
from WCW.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then the Killian Dane, I popped for the Shockmaster as well.
Yeah, that was great, and I'll admit that. But then, this
Yeah,
next part.
yeah, this shit right here, this shit right here is like the like textbook. This should never go on in fucking wrestling.
No, yeah, I agree. I hate this. I hate it so much. The zombies coming out, and then the zombie going like on Dexter, like just crawling on him the whole time, and him like you could see it. He could barely stand while doing it. He was trying to stand like in a horror movie, just having the zombie around him, but he couldn't even stand because the zombie's like pulling him back, trying to crawl around him. I'm just like, and first of all, that me saying that, right? Out of all of that, I have one question for you, sir. What the fuck did I just say?
I I,
Like,
I
what did I just say?
right. It was fucking awful, dude.
Yeah.
There were zombies, okay? This was like whoever shot the fucking tooth and nail match for All Out must have come up with this fucking segment because it was atrociously bad.
Well, that's why I loved Tommaso Ciampa's interview next because he
Oh God.
says, I don't recognize NXT anymore. And I went, well, after watching that match, I agree.
That fucking promo was fucking dope. Champa is so good.
Yes.
Champa is one of the best. Um wow. Yeah. Champa just what else can you really say about Champa? Every single time he cuts a promo, it's amazing. This one was on point. And that's the crazy thing is like Champa versus Velveteen Dream and Dakota Kai versus Ember Moon, two huge NXT matches. Neither one of them were on this card. They were on Takeover, or not Takeover, but on NXT the following week. So even without those two matches that everyone really wanted to see, I thought this was a brilliant way to get people to tune in and see those because I want to go and watch them, and I'm probably going to when we get done recording this. Um, Velveteen Dream, also amazing, amazing talent. But this promo was incredible. Um, Going into the main event, um, I loved this too. I even really loved EO's intro with Poppy. I guess is the artist's name.
Yep, that's Poppy.
Such a fucking cool entrance.
Yeah, it was. It fit her perfectly.
Yeah, I this is I've seen some of Io Shirai's stuff on the indies and some of the stuff that I guess since she got into NXT, but I haven't seen a lot of her lately. So I was super impressed with her here. She's always been impressive, but
Yeah.
she's only gotten better over time. Honestly, the weaker competitor in this match is probably Candice LeRae, and I'm a huge fan of hers. So it's weird that I'm saying that.
Yeah.
But, she was playing sort of that, shitty cowardice like heel in this match. So it made sense, she shouldn't have been doing all the crazy shit that Io Shirai was doing. She was trying to, even though it was a tables and ladders and scares match, she was trying to she was trying to win cheap, like a heel should do. Um, we'll talk about some of the rest of this, but holy shit, that finish! That
with the
shit hurt, brother. I'm gonna tell you right now, that shit hurt.
yeah, yeah, I saw that. Like I was just like, there's no way she didn't come out of that injured. Like, and
I
she did.
yeah, I have been drop toe holded on, like the basically the Sabu spot where you drop toe hold somebody onto a chair or whatever. Well, way more people than Sabu do it, but he's famous for it. I've had that spot done to me on a ladder, and that shit fucking hurt. And the next day, I had the rungs bruised in like a design of bruise across my like fucking abdomen. I cannot fathom how much that had to have hurt. The way that she hit it, it looked like her like hip took like 90% of it. It looked like she hit the thing like hip first.
Yeah.
She's gonna be feeling that one in 20 years.
Well, she just recently got injured during the War Games match, so I bet you that had a lot to do with it. Her body's probably beat up right now. And this is where I do agree with Cornette a lot of the times is I think that it's ridiculous some of the risks that people take now. Like it's just like, hey, there's not a crowd right now. I get that we're trying to get eyeballs and everything like that, but come on, guys, like you you can't do this if you're in a wheelchair, you know?
Right. I do think there are unnecessary risks. Even some of the guys that I see at some of the indie shows, I'm just like, look, I I realize that there's always this desire to like set a little bit higher bar, but you can't do that at the expense of yourself. I
Yeah.
mean, the time of doing that's over. Like we shouldn't have encouraged it back in the day when like The Rock was smacking Mankind with a chair in the head and like, all the Benoit concussions and we see how that shit turned out. I mean, we're aware of that sort of stuff now and stuff like CTE and people need to be careful. There were ways to do that spot where she did not. I mean, here's what I think. What would have been so wrong with just going through like a stack of tables? It's so much safer. Even if the ladder's rigged, it's still gravity.
Or you just
Um,
have a simple back bump off the ladder. Like, what's so wrong with that?
yeah, I mean, back in the day, it was like Kurt Angle would come up and like angle slam somebody off a ladder or whatever, and like you were done after that,
Yeah.
as you should be. Like just take a bump off the damn ladder and that's it. It's like on the damn video game. You know what I'm saying? Like you suplex somebody off a ladder, they're probably not going to get up for a while. Just do that. It was an unnecessary risk. But I loved the end with her sitting on top of the ladder and saying it's mine. Um, it was a cool moment for me. There were some really good spots in this match too, and the other thing I liked about it, it's right at 15 minutes. It's a solid main event. It felt like a main event.
Yes. Yes, I agree completely. And once again, the stealer of the show, sorry, the stealer of the show, Shotzi Blackheart.
Yeah. Yeah, she
I
got a huge pop.
I loved her as the host of this thing. I just did. It was perfect. Like, and she didn't half-ass it, man. She went into it full force. Like, a lot of people might take that and go, ugh, I'm not gonna really put that much into it. But she went into it full force, man.
Yeah. She really like played it up here and did such a great job with it. Um all in all, man, I just I could have done without the fucking House of Horrors match or whatever, but the whole pay per view, other than that, there was a little bit of everything, man. You had a really fast paced cruiserweight match. You had this kind of grudge match at the beginning that was like not a big guy, little guy match, but like a bigger guy and like a medium sized guy match. And it was a good dynamic on that with the bigger dude being the, sort of power baby face, and then, the just antagonist heel or the cowardice heel being Gargano. The main event was cool. It was, had some nice spots in it and a similar dynamic. And then we had that just incredible women's match in the semi main that was, I mean, I can't say enough good things about that match. I just loved it from a physicality standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't, I didn't, I didn't really like the House of Horrors, but I guess I got it, and so I mean, it didn't take anything away from it, I guess. But I liked the whole event, man. I thought they did a really good job with this, and when I was watching it, that's why I had to tell you about it. I was like, man, if you're a fan of Halloween Havoc, and let's be honest, if you were a WCW fan back in the day, you loved Halloween Havoc. I know they say that it's had some of the silliest stuff. It's also had a lot of like the best stuff like that, like the late 90s with Halloween Havoc. Oh my God. It has probably the best match in WCW history, which is Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. Like, there's just not a better matchup that you're going to find. And then also on that same card is DDP and the Macho Man Randy Savage, which was amazing. That last man standing match, like it was amazing. So I thought, hey, this was a really good concept. I liked how they did everything. It felt Halloween. It felt like a Halloween special, which is what you want when you're doing this type of thing. I love like when they do wrestling specials on I'm sorry, wrestling specials on holidays and stuff like that. I just don't like it when the show doesn't feel big or important enough. And I felt like this one felt big and important while being a holiday special type episode. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I absolutely get what you're saying. And I agree with you wholeheartedly, man. I think that there's just, there was an it factor the same way that like somebody has an it factor as a performer. Uh, there's people that have an it factor as far as like putting a show together. And whoever booked this, whether it was Triple H or somebody that works under him, they did a great job with it. I
Yep.
really love the job that they did with it, and it felt good. Other than the stupid ass cinematic matches, which I guess we just have to have now for some reason. Um, that being said, yeah, I thought this was great. I'm definitely glad that we decided to review it.
Like I said, I figured you would like it from just a creative standpoint. It looked it was a fun show, man. It really was, and yet while still being fun, it still had that important wrestling aspect to it.
Right, I agree. So the next thing that we're going to do, so this is going to wrap up 2020, the year that we started an Evolved Review due to the pandemic. And we are going to keep it on rolling with season two. We are going to kick off in January, our next episode. It may not be the first week of the year, maybe the second weekend of the year, but we're going to kick off with our final episode that we are going to review from the first two seasons of Dark Side of the Ring, which is the Owen Hart episode. Um, we're finally going to get that out of the way. And then we are going to spend a little bit of time doing a bit of a special feature because we aren't sure when Dark Side of the Ring is season 3 is going to come out. Um, we may have a couple more special episodes that come out if some big news happens in pop culture somewhere, something that we want to cover. Um, but we are going to talk about the Ring of Honor Pure Tournament that took place this year. That had some amazing wrestling in it. It's going to be it's a very sports based, contest based tournament. I'm not quite sure how we're going to handle it yet. Maybe we'll focus on like 4 matches at a time. So it was what, a 16-man tournament.
It is,
So
it is, but what I like about it is it's not a marathon watch like it would be for say WWE right now.
yeah,
Like if you tried to watch Raw or SmackDown or NXT even, that many weeks, well, you wouldn't be able to do it. But they only have about 2 matches an episode.
right. Yeah, and what I'm thinking is we would do like four. We would review four at a time, so we could do, so the opening round one is 8 matches, right? So we could do round one in 2 episodes, and then we could do round two in an episode, and then we could do the semifinals and the finals in an episode. So it'll be
Yeah.
3 episodes of an Evolved Review. We might split it up a little bit, maybe put something in between there, but this would be a fun one to do. Um, and I'm looking forward to it. This is actually this is our first time actually focusing in on a Ring of Honor product.
Yeah, and again, man, I've been saying this for a while. You know, people can say what they want to about Ring of Honor at times. You know, I get it, and they might not have done the best business decisions or whatnot throughout the years. I don't know. You know, that's to be determined later. But I just I when I went to see them in Atlanta, I was like, holy shit, this is a wrestling show. Like I literally saw an in-ring product and everything like that. And that was from a fan's perspective. You know, I'm not talking about what we do at VPW or even PWX, you know, because those I look at from a different perspective because, you know, I'm behind, you know, like I'm behind the scenes with VPW, you know, kind of thing. Like I commentate for it. So that's different for me. But what I'm talking about, just as a fan, you know, I really liked what they have. And I've always liked how they have presented pro wrestling, in my opinion. Like you go and you watch their ROH throwback matches with Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, even Seth Rollins as Tyler Black back in the day. You know, like these guys had wrestling matches. Like I was just like, okay, see, this is what I think of when you say a wrestling sports based product, which is what we were promised with AEW. And I don't feel as though AEW has not necessarily delivered that because they have had great in-ring matches, obviously, but it has not been the purely sports-based product. Because again, you can't have a sports-based product if people are breaking out into songs or, you know, having tooth and nail matches or even, you know, the Hardy compound thing. You know, like that doesn't say sports-based product to me. What says sports-based product is there are rules to follow, and if you break these rules, then you're the bad guy, kind of thing. And like I feel like Ring of Honor does that. Like for example, Ring of Honor does that so much that when they have like one of those blood-filled, you know, feuds, like when they have a hatred rivalry, they don't even need to do like, you know, how TNA had so many gimmick matches. You know, you had a prison yard match, a lights out match, you know, all this other stuff like it and stuff like that. Well, they don't have to have that. All they have to have is a fight without honor, which just means a no holds barred match. And that's the end of a feud. I'm like, I'm okay with that,
Right.
you know, kind of thing. So, and I followed this pure tournament as it was going on, and I was just like, this is a sports based product. This has time limits. This has rules. It feels like sports.
Yeah. I'm ready to dig into it. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I do want to talk a little bit about our performance since we moved over to the audio platforms. You ready to hear that?
Yeah.
So, so right now, our most listened to platform is Google Podcasts. We got 26% of our listeners on Google Podcasts. We have another 8% on Anchor. We have another 12% on Spotify.
Oh,
Uh,
that's awesome.
so very happy about that. And then 4% are listening on Overcast, and I don't know what that is, but I guess it's a podcast platform. No hate to those 4%. Um, I thought that was great. I'm very happy to see some of the plays and stuff we're getting now. Obviously, this does not include our audience from Facebook or YouTube. Um, Man, most listened to episode is the Bruiser Brody episode with myself, and Joe Brown. Uh,
Really?
yeah, it's kind of neck and neck with some of the others, but but it is the most listened to, and we actually have 2 listeners from the UK.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So it has been going really well. Listen to us, support us wherever. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on any of your podcast platforms. It's only going to get bigger and it's only going to get better. And we are definitely looking forward to, we just announced all kind of things for season 2. We got a bunch of stuff in our back pocket. It's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. Like I'm looking forward to like I said, I'm looking forward to covering this Ring of Honor because I don't feel as though they get enough love, and I believe like with us talking about it, it's going to make some other people want to go and watch it as well.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Caleb, thanks for joining us today. As always, you can hear more of Caleb, and if you're on any of our video platforms here, you can see it right here on the program. I have on the SWN shirt. You can check him out on the SWN. You can also check him out on the Power Rangers Go podcast.
Yes.
Um, very excited about both of those. I listen to them pretty religiously myself. And this has been an Evolved Review.